and give our burdens to God. And pray that God will work today in this service. I think we finished chapter 10 last week. At least we're trying to follow along. I'm going to go in the same passage because I realized on Wednesday nights, none of my family is in here. So they never actually hear my Proverbs messages. So it's like, okay, family devotions is going to be going through the book of Proverbs. So you guys can hear little bits of my Wednesday night messages throughout the week. But so I think we finished chapter 10, though, last week. I want to jump into Proverbs chapter 11, and I want to look at the first 8 verses here of Proverbs chapter 11. The Bible says, "A false balance is abomination to the Lord, but a just weight is his delight. When pride cometh, then cometh shame, but with the lowly is wisdom. The integrity of the upright shall guide them, but the perverseness of transgressors shall destroy them. Riches profit not in the day of wrath, but righteousness delivereth from death. The righteousness of the perfect shall direct his way, but the wicked shall fall by his own wickedness. The righteousness of the upright shall deliver them, but transgressors shall be taken in their own naughtiness. When a wicked man dieth, his expectation shall perish, and the hope of unjust men perisheth. The righteous is delivered out of trouble, and the wicked cometh in his stead." As we study Proverbs, we study God's wisdom. We're looking for guidance, hopefully. Hopefully we're not just looking for and I think it was more of a joke when he said this, but I for whatever reason, this sticks with me. And when I was a teenager, there was me and my brothers, and then there was another family we had 4 teenage boys. They had 3 teenage boys. They were all the same age. Both our dads were pastors, and we were just really close friends. 4 of us went to the YMCA together every morning. We'd go work out, play basketball together, and then we wound up going to community college together, just the 4 of us. And we would try to encourage each other in the Lord. We did a contest to see in 1 month who could memorize the most of the book of Proverbs. I got up to chapter 3. I thought I was doing good. He was up to chapter 7.5 that he'd memorized in that 1 month. And he's like, I want to be able to have lots of pithy sayings to tell people. Like, that's not a really good reason to study the book of Proverbs. Thinking back at it now, and there was better reasons for studying that, and that was the real reason. Thy word have I hid in my heart that I might not sin against thee. And a lot of, I think, the decisions I made later in college years, those verses that we memorized in that just contest between teenagers who can memorize the most verses, those verses popped into my mind a lot when I was trying to make decisions. And when you get God's word in your heart, it's going to change things. And we study Proverbs to gain guidance, to get guidance. And then sometimes we say, hey, we want wisdom. Sometimes that's a nebulous concept. It's hard how do we actually get wisdom? And one characteristic of wisdom that we see today in this passage that will help guide us is this concept of integrity. Integrity. A concept that it's etched into walls and on documents around our nation, but any nation struggles when integrity is devalued. Integrity, and with the cadet programs at Malachi and now Marcus are cadets there in the Air Force Auxiliary, their core values: integrity, volunteer service, excellence, and respect. And those are, I teach the character development classes there for them, and it's kind of the chaplain's job. I get to go in there, and they've got this wall, this classroom. They've got integrity, volunteer service, excellence, respect up on the walls. And those are the core values that they're trying to teach these young cadets who are training. Some of them will go on into active military. Some of them will leave there and just be leaders wherever they go. But they're learning leadership. And they say their focus is, hey, integrity is this first thing you need for leadership. And if you look at military, every branch of military, their core values includes integrity. I think that's something that does set America apart from other nations. And what is the core value of our soldiers? We want ruthless, tough, mean. No. We want men of integrity. We don't want a rabble. We don't want a mindless killing machine. We want people who are citizens of our nation, who are also soldiers, who are people, humans, who will stand between their homes and the war's desolation. That's what we want as American military. And that does set us apart from other militaries. And God's given our military victory throughout the last few centuries. And I think a great deal because of the foundation that those core values that used to be woven throughout our nation are at least still printed in military training material. Now, does that mean that everybody in the military follows it? Sadly, no. But it's out there. It's that teaching. And if we want a guide to say, hey, what decision do I make? Integrity, that I'm going to do what's right because it's right, regardless of if anyone's watching me and regardless of the consequences. Okay? I'm going to just do what is right. If we let that guide us, right, we will be wise. And it's just that simple, I'm going to let integrity guide me. And let's look at some examples here of this integrity. They use the word righteous here. Look at verse 1. A false balance is abomination to the Lord, but a just weight is his delight. Go ahead. Mm-hmm. Yeah. If you accepted the job for this much, why are you complaining that? Yeah. Mm-hmm. And just having that integrity. When we've made the decision that we're going to do it because it's right. I think of in 1 Peter when it's talking about, or maybe 2 Peter when it's saying add to your faith virtue and to virtue knowledge, the steps of Christian growth. Okay? Adding that step of virtue means I am deciding that I want virtue in my life. It's not saying, well, which of the virtues am I adding? No, you're deciding you want to add virtue. You're deciding you're going to do what's right. Mm-hmm. Well, here's a example of a false balance. If you clocked in at this time and you're going to clock out at this time and you're getting paid during that time and you decide, hey, you know what? I'm just going to fill up some of this side with empty weight, just doing my own thing. When I'm being paid to do this for this time, it's, what are you doing? You're stealing. If you you check the gas pumps over there. They've got those stickers, every year it's inspected by the Wisconsin State Weights and Means Committee. Make sure that it's actually a gallon that it pumps. You know, if I have an 18-gallon tank in my car and I go in there and it says I just put 25 gallons in my car and they're charging me for 25 gallons, I'm going to have some words, okay? That's a false balance. You know, you want to benefit yourself, but you don't want to benefit someone else. And, they used to have, you bring your own weights. And it's like, okay, I'm buying. Okay, I'm going to put, light weights up there. Hey, this is only 5 pounds, not 10 pounds. I put extra heavy weights. When I'm selling, I put the light weights up there. It's like, okay, yeah, that's 5 pounds. It's really only 3 pounds. And God doesn't love that. That's an abomination to the Lord. But that's a picture of integrity right there. Are you going to have integrity? Even if you could be sneaky and get away with it. Right? Have integrity. The next verse, when pride cometh, then cometh shame, but with the lowly is wisdom. It's like, how does this have to do with integrity? Hey? Having integrity is being honest with yourself. And proud people are never honest with themselves. Okay? You can't build yourself up as some superhuman and actually be honest with yourself. You're lying about who you are. You're lying about other people, who other people are. You are making this false picture of yourself. It's breaking your integrity. You're presenting yourself as bigger than you actually are. Okay? And it's better to be with the lowly, saying, you know what, I'm not going to pump myself up. I'm not going to make an inflatable, 10-foot bubble of myself that the first time something comes against it, it pops. I've got to have that integrity. And elsewhere in Proverbs it says, it's better to be said unto thee, it says, put not forth thyself in the presence of a prince. Say, hey, there's someone important, some big leader. Hey, I got to make sure I'm there so I can, I'm in a room and, hey, Donald Trump walked over there. I'm going to go run up and introduce myself to Donald Trump. Okay? And the room gets quiet because people think, who in the world is that? Okay? Security, get him out of here. Whereas I'd rather be, if I happen to be in the room, I don't know why I'm in the room with Donald Trump, I'm going to sit over here quietly, and then maybe the host or hostess, whoever's in the room, says, oh, wait, yeah, Pastor Meyer's over there. That's right, he's here. I wanted him to be able to meet. Hey, Mr. Trump, this is Pastor Meyer. So much better to be, if you're sitting with the lowly, for someone to call you up than for you to put yourself forward and to be put down in the presence of the prince in whose eyes thou hast seen. Okay? If you're there, that person, you just put yourself forward. Okay? You put a bubble of yourself. Okay? Pride cometh shame. Okay? You put that pride out there, you're going to be shamed. But with the lowly is wisdom. And it's having integrity. I'm not going to pretend to be someone else right now than who I really am. This is who I am. Okay? If I'm normally greeting everyone who comes in here, I'm going to greet everyone who comes in here. I'm not going to sit back here and it's like, okay, there's a visitor. Okay, there's a visitor. There's a visitor. Oh, that's Derek Van Orden. I'm going to go introduce myself over there. Okay, look, congressman just walked in. I'll do that and ignore other visitors. No. Now, if I introduce myself to every single visitor that comes into the church and a congressman happens to walk in, is that a breach in integrity to go shake his hand? No. Okay? But having integrity, being with the lowly, is wisdom. Then verse 3 there, the integrity of the upright shall guide them, but perverseness of the transgressors shall destroy them. Okay? The opposite of integrity is perverseness. Okay? Something that has integrity, something's got physical integrity. I think this is pretty strong. It's up against the table there. I don't want to test the integrity of that vase if it falls. Okay? Something's physically strong. It's got physical integrity. Okay? It's not going to fall apart. I'm going to move this so that I can pound the pulpit without breaking things. It's got physical integrity. But if it's perverse, if there were termites in this pulpit, and I leaned on the pulpit because my knees are hurting because of arthritis, and all of a sudden the pulpit just kind of totally collapsed underneath me. Okay? You usually say we have problems in the pulpit at that point. If there's perverseness in it, it's going to be destruction. As a training class I went to, it It was a retired Army colonel that was a representative for West Point Military Academy, and he was taught this lecture on leadership that he would go around and he would teach it to generals and other people around the Army. His 4 tenets of leadership, and he called it VICE, V-I-C-E, vision, integrity, competence, and enthusiasm. And he said those 4 pillars were like 4 legs on a table. Okay? Now, if you pulled one leg out of a table, it might actually still stand up. And people can see it standing. Until the first time there's any pressure put on the table. The first time something happens, okay? If you've got competence, enthusiasm, and vision, but you have no integrity, the first time there's stress, you're going to fall. If you have integrity and enthusiasm and a vision, but you have no competence in what you're doing, you're also going to fall. You have no idea what you're doing. Okay, you probably shouldn't have been put in that position. And if you're missing one of those, you're saying as a leader, you have to have those. And this thing of integrity, when you have perverseness therein, it's like the one leg of your table is just eaten with termites. That's where the destruction is going to happen. It's this break of integrity. And they can look back at it. And I want us to look at each of these verses here in our last 12 minutes. And they each give an example of this. Verse 4, riches profit not in the day of wrath, but righteousness delivereth from death. Okay? Doing what's right, that's integrity. Doing what's right when nobody sees you. Okay? Now, in the day of wrath, when judgment is coming, be it from God or be it from man. Okay? Some people say, well, if I've got money, the golden rule, he who has the gold makes the rules. That only goes so far. Okay? At some point, they're going to realize, hey, if we throw him in jail and chop off his head, we'll take all his money. So why take a bribe when we could just take it all? We've got enough dirt to hang him, let's hang him. Okay? And the riches, and there's people who think that they can hide behind their riches. Okay? But when, not if, that day of wrath comes. And it comes here on earth, but even more so than that, it comes in heaven. You can have $100 trillion, but when you stand before God, it's not going to help a thing. Okay? It's not going to guide you out of your troubles. It's not going to say, hey, if I just had $1 million, okay? I know we're going into retirement here, and $1 million would be really helpful right now, okay? But the attitude you come in here, it's like, hey, you know what? Just a little guidance here. We'll make it. God's got us, okay? Having that is going to lead you to a much nicer retirement than having all the riches and trouble therewith, okay? In chapter 10, he talks about that he addeth no sorrow with it when the riches that come from God. Riches are not going to deliver us, but righteousness will. If we're doing what's right, even if we don't have any money, okay, when that day comes, we'll be delivered, okay? You know what it's called in the New Testament in Ephesians chapter 6? It's called the breastplate of righteousness, okay? Having a Kevlar vest on when you're going into the fight, okay? Now, there's the helmet of salvation, we need that too, but having that breastplate of righteousness when those arrows, those darts, those guns come against you, okay, the breastplate of $100 bills doesn't protect from that. But if you're guided by integrity, you're doing what's right, you're building this armor that's going to deliver you from judgment, okay? And how many pivotal things, you've got the king with the best armor out there, but it didn't work, okay? King Saul was hit by an arrow. Battle of Hastings, King Harold, of England. He's got his knights up on top of the army there. William the Conqueror is down there in the valley, and he's winning the day. Someone says something, he looks up, and there's one stray arrow that comes down straight through the slit of his visor and knocks him down. That panic then goes through his whole army, and the dynasty of England changes to William of Normandy. Okay? The Saxons now ruled by the Normans. Completely changed England, which England has had somewhat of an effect on, let's see, America, other countries, the empire that the sun never sets upon, the British Empire. A lot of history changed because one rich person's armor didn't cut it. Okay? Riches aren't going to deliver you, but righteousness will. Verse 5. The righteousness of the perfect shall direct his way, but the wickedness shall fall by his own wickedness. But the wicked shall fall by his own wickedness. Again, integrity is guiding us. The righteousness of the perfect. If we're, and I don't know that means sinless perfection. In the New Testament, it's talking about completeness. We'll talk about that for the perfection of the saints. And we have this righteousness that it's when we choose to do what's right. Some people will sit there and like, I just don't know which way to go. I don't know which decision to make. And they stand there when sometimes it's a plain, this is what's right. Okay? Now, you'll come to some decisions at some point in your life where, hey, there's not a sin, this isn't a sin, this isn't a sin, I just don't know which way to go. But if you have been guided your whole life by, hey, right, wrong, I'm going to go with right. Right, wrong, I'm going to go with right. When you get to that point, you're going to still be guided by the direction, the vision that God's given you for your life. And you'll be able to follow that. Okay? The righteousness of the perfect shall direct his ways. Verse 6. The righteousness of the upright shall deliver them, but transgressors shall be taken in their own naughtiness. Okay? Again, this whole thing, if your integrity crumbles, when it comes up, when they find the dirt on you, okay? You know, how many people that, they start talking about them for nominations to some high government position. These people have been growing, they've been doing great in their jobs until, they make the president's short list for nomination to Supreme Court, or they make they're in the talkings about for a cabinet position. Then people start digging deep in their lives. Then things start coming up. And you know what happens? That dirt comes up. Not only do they not get that promotion, but nobody wants them to have the job that they had before. They're like, wait a second. What's this in your history? No, you're not going to have any position. They were a rising star until it comes out about their naughtiness and the wickedness that's in the past. Okay? It's going to take them over. It's going to take them down. Okay? And, have we seen that happen? It happens. It's almost like par for the course. You've got to identify at least 20 names of people that you think are upright and outstanding citizens who would be perfect for the job, for the media to thin them out until you find one that can pass all the background checks and doesn't have a past full of bad things. And having that integrity of, hey, I'm doing this thing the right way, and being able to stand on that. Hey, I haven't done that wrong thing. I think of Justice Kavanaugh when his confirmation hearings, and that old classmate, the girl from college, came out and said, well, we were at this party and he came and he did this to me. And this is before Senate in a hearing to confirm someone who's already sat as a federal judge for years, and now to be the Supreme Court justice, and now this person's coming out and saying, hey, he raped me way back when. Now here's the habit of, hey, your integrity in that record that's going to protect you. When he came up to the stand and he's like, okay, here is every year of my life, my planners. There's not a missing month in there. Going back all the way through college. Here's the study groups I was at in all those days. You can call to the stand all those people I studied with. I was there. I never went to those parties. And here's the date she's accusing me of. I was with these 3 people at this library. We were studying this topic. Okay? The integrity of the upright shall preserve them. I just saw that as like, wow. When people could throw these things, and we live in a world where accusations come out of everywhere, but if you can stand there and your righteousness can just be that armor, okay? Is he a perfect person? No. But he didn't do what they accused him of. And when we have that's going to protect us, but other people are going to get caught up in their own naughtiness. Verse 7, when a wicked man dieth, his expectation shall perish, and the hope of unjust men perisheth. You know, in life, the influential leaders, they have a vision, a dream, that is bigger than themselves, okay? Get up, if someone has a dream of, I have a dream that I will be the most powerful person in the world. Yay. Okay? But if I have a dream that we're gonna, make America great again, I have a dream that children in the street with their black, white, yellow, anything in between, brown, whatever color, they can play together, and they're going to be judged by the content of the character, not the color of their skin. Okay? That's a dream that's bigger than someone. And when that someone dies, does that dream die? Okay? When you have a dream that's bigger than yourself and you're doing what's right, when you die, your dream keeps going. But what does it say here? When a wicked man dieth, his expectation shall perish, and the hope of unjust men perisheth. Hey, I got a dream that I'm going to be super powerful. Well, guess what? When you die, it's gone. And there's unjust desires that sometimes people have desires that are bigger than them. They want it to be bigger than them, to be larger than life, to go beyond them. But God says, look, those expectations of the wicked, when they die, it's done. Okay? Someone had a dream. He didn't say mein dream. He said mein Kampf, my struggle. He wrote a book while he was in prison, political prison in Germany. When he got out, his book was already a bestseller. He got his SS troops together and he took over Germany, then started taking over all the other nations around them. He had a dream that he could have the master race, purify the human race of all the non-evolved people. Okay? He was going to be a crusader for Darwinism. Adolf Hitler. You know when he died? Now, there's some people trying to carry on that dream, but for the most part, the dream perished. Okay? I'm glad that there's not there are a few states that probably do have an open Nazi party, but it's not a dominant party. That it's done. I mean, communism is bad, but okay, Nazism was worse. Okay? I'm glad that that's gone. And people try to bring it up again, but when the unjust men perish, their expectation that goes away with them. And have a dream for your life that's bigger than your life, that's not just going to disappear when you die. When there's someone with integrity, that's going to be your motive for integrity, is I'm doing what's right because when I'm gone, what I do that's right will mean something. But if I'm doing what's wrong just for my own benefit right now, when I'm gone, it's not going to mean anything. Okay? No, only one life will soon be past. Only what's done for God will last. And I want something that lasts bigger than me, longer than me. Last verse here, the righteous is delivered out of trouble, and the wicked cometh in his stead. All right? One of the best Old Testament examples of the breastplate of righteousness that I like to go to is Daniel. Purpose in his heart. He wasn't going to defile himself. How many times did he have a chance, or his friends had that chance to defile themselves, to do something else? They would have gotten away with it. No one would have said anything about him. Kidnapped as a teenager, brought to another land, changed his name, changed his diet, changed his language, taught him algebra. All those things. And yet he maintained his integrity. He said, I'm not going to eat that. I'm not going to drink that. Prove me. And he did what was right, and God blessed him. 10 times better than all of the other magicians. Okay? His friends. I'm not going to bow. Oh, when they were thrown in the furnace, there was another man with them. Daniel wasn't there because whenever the emperor left the capital, there had to be someone left in charge of the empire. That would have been the first president. That would have been Daniel. That's why Daniel wasn't out there at the plain of Shinar with the other 3 Hebrew children. He was busy running the rest of the empire while all of the governors were over there. And then when Darius made that fun little law saying you can't pray to anyone except to him, because the other wise men were jealous and they were scheming, and they said, there's no way, he's not broken any of the laws here. The only way we can get him is by his integrity. He's always going to pray to his God. Well, let's catch him in that. And they caught him in that. And in his righteousness, they threw him into the lion's den. But the breastplate of righteousness protected Daniel. And the next morning, when Darius went there and Daniel was still alive, guess who was put in Daniel's place? The righteous is delivered out of trouble, and the wicked cometh in his stead. It said they took all those wise men and their families, and they threw them down there, and the lions were upon them, and every bone in their body was broken before they hit the ground. Don't even want to try to imagine that. They faced that judgment. Listen, you want to be wise? Let integrity, let righteousness be your guide. Is this the right thing to do? Okay? Doesn't matter who's watching. If I want my life to matter when I'm gone, I'm going to do the right thing. Okay? When that day of judgment comes, whether it's in this life or the next life, I want to be delivered from that judgment, so I'm going to do what's right. I'm going to do what's right. I'm going to do what's right. Okay? I'm not going to try to make myself bigger than I am. I'm just going to do what's right. I'm going to let God exalt me. I'm not going to try to exalt myself. I'm going to do what's right. I'm not going to try to cheat. I'm just going to do what's right. That's the path of wisdom. That's the path we all need to take. Let's pray. Dear Lord, I thank you for your love. I thank you for your goodness to us. I pray that you would help each one of us as we will be tested in the coming hours and days and weeks and months for our integrity. Will we choose to do right when no one's looking? I pray, Lord, that you would work in my heart, protect me, help me to choose the path of wisdom, the path of righteousness, the path of integrity. I pray you be with each person here. I pray that you get the glory for it. I pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. You may be dismissed.